The Orville New Horizons Review, Episode 1, Electric Sheep.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yes, that's
That,
basically
I don't
yeah,
know. I wonder how many people got that reference.
a lot. It's not,
most of them.
yeah, I would imagine. Well, if you're watching a sci fi show like Orville, if you're going to the trouble of watching the Orville, you know it's
There
coming
was
out, you find it, you watch it, you're probably a sci fi fan and you
Well,
there was
probably know it.
My Little Ponies episode titled "Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep?"
well, in case any kids or like teenagers are watching this, the androids dream of electric sheep was the original name for Blade Runner. Well, the book that's based off of. Anyway,
Yeah. Which this is a very interesting episode in its content.
like I kind of hated the crew. Like, okay, it's been a while since. Well, of course, it's been a while since I watched Orville. Like, except for this episode. Did Isaac actually kill anyone himself?
He himself didn't, but he is the reason lots of people are dead. Because his people his people started a war. It's kind of like the um if Locutus wasn't a thing, it's kind of like how Seven of Nine would be reacted to back home. You
Yeah,
know,
it's that
his,
that
his people. Yeah. The Cylon are basically the non-organic Borg. They're the big bads who tried to kill off all organic life. They're the they're the Daleks.
they're Daleks that look like Cybermen.
Yes, they're the Cyber Daleks. Hence the Cylon. Which now I'm
but yeah, I mean, it's essentially it's an episode about suicide
and
Yeah.
bullying
and bullying and
and mental health, which makes sense because June is men's mental health month.
yeah, it's also to a certain extent, it's also about. Well, I mean, he says it himself. The captain says, like, I'm not that masochistic to keep hating like that.
Yeah.
Like when you hate somebody that much,
If you let somebody live in your head rent
yeah,
free over I understand it was a massive thing losing somebody over that, but at the same time, blaming Isaac for something his people did.
That's what I find stupid. It kind of reminds me of when like 9/11, the two towers, just like these assholes did that. Everybody's like, oh, all Muslims are evil and stuff.
Oh yeah, they still do that though.
I know, and it's like it's stuff that pisses me off. That's what kind of made me hate the crew in this episode. It's like,
Oh yeah,
yes,
I agree completely.
like his people are bad or evil. He was good. He saved the day.
Yeah, his people deactivated him so he wouldn't help out.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the previous well enough because it's been like 3 years now.
Same. Like, fuck.
But I think Yaphet was the one who saved him last time.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
because
That's why they called it on him
like,
again.
Yeah,
yeah.
like
And how Yaphet uses a spacesuit is very interesting.
I know.
oh yeah, that's just like, bruh, that's awesome. And like, walk. Suddenly, the entire spacesuit collapses.
It just
He just
pours
his
out.
outfit. I'm still wondering. I'm gonna be honest because I wasn't sure at what point in the filming Norm Macdonald died. I was half expecting him to get electrocuted trying to save Isaac.
Well, I looked on like the Wikipedia page for this, and they said that he did finish all of his stuff before.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry he
Now I don't know
died,
how
but
I don't know how well that's cited and whatnot, and how reliable that is, but I would assume that that would be no reason to lie about that. That seems like a very weird thing to
Yeah.
lie about.
I'm
But
still
I
sad he
wouldn't.
died, but happy that he managed to finish it, if it's true.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then they'll have to figure out something if there's a
Yep.
season
Yep.
2, or season 4 rather. But
Yaphet is my favorite character.
It's kind of weird that they named the season New Horizons and not just season 3.
and maybe it's a copyright thing or something. Hulu wanted to have. Oh no, this is our thing.
Yeah.
But
Well, they do that sometimes.
yeah,
Like, Strike Back, they named not each season, but like pretty much each season based on what's going on within the season. Like Redemption or whatever. Stuff like that.
but yeah, and
I mean, I can kind of see like the kids who having like nightmares and stuff.
Yeah.
But at least in the end, he kind of turned around.
Well, no, you see what happened was he felt guilty because imagine being the reason somebody killed themselves. Like, imagine how heavy that must feel, especially as a kid, being like, you know what? I wish you were dead, and then they died.
See, generally,
And
I
they
don't think
killed themselves because you put all of that blame on yourself. Like, I told him to his face I wanted him dead, and he killed himself that same day.
See, me, I don't think I've ever, said to anybody, "Hey, I wish you kill yourself" or whatever. And if I did, I would probably feel bad, if they did. But like at the same time, if someone's like, "If you don't date me, I'm gonna kill myself," and then they do it, I don't really think I would feel any remorse.
Well, no, but you see, that's the difference. Like, this is a direct action causing it, whereas the other one is a passive act, which isn't as extreme. Like, you can't force someone not to kill themselves, but directly influencing someone to kill themselves is a lot more painful.
Well, remember, he just did it because he thought it'd be logical, and everybody would increase their work production.
Well, yeah, but like Claire said, like, that's not, you can't live with ask Harry, you can't live with humans and not pick up some of their emotional attachments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to bring it up, but I mean, look at Harry.
Exactly.
That resident alien.
Exactly. You can't exist as a vacuum or within anything because you will pick up on that stuff. You will acquire them. Even Data, who did not have an emotional capacity, an emotion chip, still had emotional attachments.
Wasn't there like an episode where he was given emotion chip though?
He was actually given emotions by Q in the end of I think it was Less, where he lost his powers, and when he got his powers back, as a reward, he gave Data some emotions.
Also, crazy though, didn't he?
Yeah, he was just laughing nonstop.
Yeah, he just gave him the ability to laugh,
Uh,
for a bit,
But
and
also, he did have an emotion chip that worked and sometimes didn't.
but it
He had a
was
very
a little iffy, and so
yeah. I mean, that was one of the. It was actually used against him during what was it? First Contact. But the point is, they do have, even when he didn't have emotions, he still formed emotional attachments.
yeah.
And he had an emotional attachment to Claire and the kids. And so have everybody else bullying him wasn't as big of a deal because it's like, I understand they don't like me. Nothing I can really do about this. Even though he was trying to incorporate himself and trying to be accepted, he understood why he wasn't. It was when Marcus was like, "You give me nightmares. I hate you and wish you were dead." That really was the kick for him. Because, like, he cares about that kid, and that kid he hurt the kid so severely he was having nightmares. And so his logic was, the kid would be better off without me, everyone else would be, why not?
Yeah. Okay, so there was one thing I thought was gonna happen. So you know that new ship they got, right?
What new
the
oh
pterodon,
Yeah,
yeah,
the little mini
the
one person
single
ship.
single person fighter.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you know how the Anson was saying no the guy was saying that just need to have Isaac look at it right and so you want his grabbing hands on it. I thought she was going to sabotage the ship to make it look like Isaac did it.
That crossed my
So
mind for half a second.
yeah, right?
'Cause I didn't know exactly where this was going yet. So,
Yeah, everything turned out fine.
especially with Ensign, suddenly we have an Ensign who is obviously more than just a side character, is an important character in this episode, whom we've never seen before, because she probably joined after, well, she
Oh
did
yeah.
join after the battle, because she was on the Quimby, which was funny, because I was thinking, is that a Simpsons reference? They named it after Mayor Quimby. Uh,
But yeah.
or maybe it's named after what Quimby was named after. But anyway, uh, so yeah, it's like that way. She's important enough now, but if we need to get rid of her, it's not a big deal. Which is kind of the opposite of what the whole doing this particular type of episode with Isaac is because like you could tell this kind of story with Isaac and still get to keep Isaac.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a very
But
dark,
soon
very
it
deep, deep, but it's a very dark episode, with a lot of emotion
it's
attached to it. But you can come back from it because he's who he is. And
yeah,
so you can still tell the story you want to tell, but at the end of it, reset the status quo without, it
I,
being too weird.
I love the fact that she's the only one who can fix him.
Yeah.
And I mean, you knew that was going to happen as soon as they mentioned her spatial, 4-dimensional spatial thing.
Something,
Yeah.
something was gonna come of that. It's like, okay, there's a detail that
I could
there's
play
a bit of
4D
unnecessary
chess.
detail. That's setting up something.
Yeah. And as soon as it's like, there's a chance, but it's a tiny chance. Like, she's the one who's going to have to save him. because it's the obvious choice, having to
Yeah.
get over your prejudices
Yeah.
for the betterment of someone
Yeah.
that you dislike because of your prejudices.
Yeah. She's a bodist.
Uh, that was most. I think we hit most of the main story points. One of the things I wanted, like, we got the pterodon. Okay, that was cool. One of the things that I saw that was interesting was essentially the warp core, their equivalent of the warp core. Like in the first two seasons, is sort of it's just a thing in the wall, and you can't really see what it is. Like it's just sort of a thing. It's a bit like the warp core on TNG. It's sort of a thing. You can see
Yeah.
it, but you don't really see what's going on. And they upgraded that to where you can actually see what's going on, and in fact go in there, which is crazy to me that you can actually go in there. But apparently that you can.
I dropped the sandwich in there to make sure that it didn't destabilize. It's like, so what would you have done if it did destabilize?
Die.
What would you have done if your sandwich caused a warp core breach?
Die.
Get
Not
a
much you
tribble
can
and some
do.
chewing gum.
Yeah.
There's a reference.
And bounce the particle beam off the.
Off the main deflector tip.
One part I thought was cool. I thought the torpedoes and the small ship thing was kind of cool. You know, to get them
Big
off their backs.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't they have scanners to be like, oh hey, like the ship's still there?
No, because the disturbance, the atmospheric conditions were making it harder for them to read through it.
You know, one day you'd think that there'd be like a super advanced civilization that has like scanners that are so good that that would not matter.
It's been a plot point in even many Star Trek episodes.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the Voyager used it to get away from the Kazon how many times?
It's like updating scanners to 3.0. Oh, hey, they're right there.
Let's see.
We got a Star Trek reference, a My Little Pony reference, and even a Resident Alien reference.
Yeah.
And one more thing about it was that
And
it
a Doctor
was
Who reference.
like it had like when it'd been at least a year since they upgraded the thing, because it's like, well, didn't we just replace this last year? Yeah, but this makes that look like nothing.
Coming true.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you know, ships are funny. It's like the Orville looks huge, right? And it flies past that other ship that's even bigger.
Yeah, and I find that interesting is that the Planetary Union, I think, is it? I forget what their equivalent. It's the Federation. It's their equivalent of the Federation.
Yeah.
It's like their ships, like most of them look exactly the same, just scaled.
Yeah.
Mostly. I mean, there might be a little something here or there, but mostly all of them look like, which kudos, because that means you've actually got a style guide and you're actually following it.
I mean, doesn't Star Trek kind of work the same way?
Yeah, it's got a little more leeway because there are written rules, but like things you're supposed to do. Like like the nacelles, you're not supposed to put anything between the nacelles. The Bassard collectors, which are on the front of the nacelles, need to be visible from the front. Um, it's that sort of like there's a whole list of them somewhere of like the way you design a Star Trek Federation ship. Like there's rules to how you can do it, but you have to even number of nacelles generally, at least generally an even number of nacelles at least. Um, the the galaxy in the last episode of last bit of TNG had 3 nacelles, but it usually, and they've broken that rule for a few things, but generally nacelles are supposed to be paired. It's just how those are supposed to be done. You could have 4 nacelles, you could have 6 nacelles, you can have 2 nacelles, but you're not supposed to have 1 or 3 or 5. But they've broken that rule
that's more aesthetics anyways.
Yeah, it's just, this is how, like, giving yourself some rules in your design actually can help creativity, because you got to work around those rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can do this, and you're thinking more like, if you have rules, you can think about, okay, this is a rule. It's explained in universe, but this is a rule you have to follow. Like, okay, if that rule is a rule you have to follow, you have to think like the designers in that universe. And so if they're like, oh, yeah, we need more nacelles. We can't put 3 nacelles. We got to put 4 nacelles. So this is going to be a 4 nacelle thing, like the constellation and whatnot.
Nice. Now, I do kind of find it interesting that both the Orville, the show, and Star Trek uses the term ensign.
Well, it's a naval term.
Rank.
Oh,
it's a naval term.
That's a military rank. They both use like a basic military ranking style.
Honestly, I thought it was completely made up. Well, except for first officer and that stuff.
And
first officer is a position, not it's a you have a rank. It's generally in Star Trek, it's a commander, but yeah, that's usually your first officer is a title in addition to your rank. It's a job description rather than a rank. Because Sisko was a commander when he started on DS9. Eventually, they did make him a captain. But yeah, it's just usually now viewing the lines on the shoulder. That's it's far enough away from what Star Trek does so that it doesn't really creep into infringement, because it's that's not the same, but they're kind of doing much the same thing, and that's why you can tell pretty quickly who's what. Though I would think that, given you want to be able to identify who's head honcho really quickly, that's the whole point of having those sorts of things. Gray on gray is not a great way to like dense, or I forget if it's raised or dense. I think it's raised, but the raised bumps, like
just a raised bump,
like paint those things a different color. Like, I don't know, maybe they couldn't find a good color for it, and so they just left it gray because it'd be easier to produce that way. But like, if I'm thinking more like in universe, I want to design this thing. I'm making those with some sort of color to them, so that if you're walking by and you like, oh, that's an ensign, because you can see the stripe really easily, because it's maybe make it whatever team color they are. So if they're green, their stripes are a green. That way it's easy to see, because it's like if you had the pips, but instead of the gold pips, you made them silver or gray to blend in with the uniform. It's like, no, you need to make those stand out a little bit. They're brass, I think, actually, in Star Trek. So instead of gold, but like more towards the golden end of the spectrum than the silver end, because it would just blend in otherwise. But yeah,
Yeah.
if it would blend in, that's kind of, and TNG gets away with it because their sort of wrist stripes are shiny. So
Shiny.
you get any light on it and you instantly can see what it is. If you can see it, it's probably reflecting light, and it's probably, you can easily see it, because when you get command gold and gold stripes, it blends a little too easily. But you get any light on it, you can see it.
Yeah.
It's not as visible as others, but you can see it.
Hey, never caught her name if she had one, but what did you think of that one alien chick, the gray one with a bunch of spikes? What do you think of her concept
Oh,
of people taking their life?
I mean, I get it.
It's different people coming to a different conclusion,
Oh yeah.
facing the same problem. And that's a cultural difference.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it.
I do too. And it's like I never actually seen the movie Coco, but it was like I've seen like clips of it. It's like you die twice. You die the first time when you die, and you die like the second time when everybody forgets about you. So it's like as long as like people remember you, you'll still live on. For the most
Anyway,
part.
anyway,
Unfortunately,
um,
some people need to be forgotten.
uh, which that's another. She's another interesting uh,
You did kind
alien
of make my
species.
hips bleed.
Yeah, we had a lot of interesting alien species this go around.
Oh yeah.
That made the bad budget for, since they already had the budget for most of the sets were already built, so they didn't have to build new sets. So they invested a little budget in some more costumes and upgrading the set a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they just upgraded the sets a little bit, maybe add a set or two here or there, but they added some more costume work so they could get away with a little more interesting things. But you should have been
I,
green.
I gotta say,
Then the BBC might have had a problem.
a lot of space shows that I've seen, this, Orville, maybe Star Trek, Doctor Who, really like their spiky aliens.
Yeah, we had the cactuses
Yeah,
from End of Time, I think.
yeah.
Cacti.
Cacti.
The cacti, and don't tell me there wasn't at least one spiky alien in Star Trek.
Spiky aliens is track. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean they didn't exist.
Now, one thing I found interesting about the Orville, unlike a lot of shows where it's like, you hear everybody like translated to English, right? Or if you're watching French or
Yeah,
whatever.
I was
It's
thinking
like,
about that. They actually had some that weren't translated.
yeah, translating, we see the subtitles. Now, I'm thinking it's like, just like the captain, does people know how to speak those languages? Or are they hearing it translated?
I think what we're hearing is essentially what you would hear if you popped your head into uh, that drive without a universal translator sort of installed for you. Like,
Ah.
I think what you're hearing is,
They probably have a babblefish.
yeah,
Yes.
the equivalent of a babblefish. If you didn't have a babblefish, like he was speaking English, uh, the alien was speaking whatever he was speaking. They just thought it would make an interesting enough sound that translating it would have not it would have been funnier without the translation done
I mean, either way,
automatically.
I found that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And he was told to step on something. Really?
It's like,
All right.
really? Okay, crunch. It's like, does anybody have a weapon? I need a weapon. You step.
Oh yeah, to find Isaac's brain memories.
Thank God for redundant backup drives.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
This episode of the Orville is sponsored by
NordVPN. Kidding.
no.
We're
no,
not
not
sponsored. We're not sponsored.
no, the episode of the Orville. No, what's the cloud backup one?
There's like several.
Yeah,
Well, there's one that
Google Drive. There's all sorts of
Dropbox.
things, but
it's one of the ones that Simon Whistler is sponsored by.
oh.
I can't remember it offhand.
Anyway, but yeah. I think also what this is gonna do, well, I don't think it'll get rid of everybody, and this could leave a lingering everybody's hatred of Isaac, but I think it's going to allay a lot of them. Like, it's not gonna be perfect, but this might be enough to sort of steer things mostly back towards the status quo, with the option, if they want to come back and revisit this at some point, they can, because not everybody's immediately going to forgive him but like gonna be okay with him.
The ensign is still gonna have a problem with him for a while.
So like it might be mostly fine at this point, because a few more people now are like, okay, well that wasn't I shouldn't, that was wrong. But like there'll be some people who do that, but then there'll be
I mean, we still have the people who are like, glad he was dead.
Yeah, you're gonna have those people, and maybe we'll get down the line. I think it's gonna be it's returning to status quo for the Orville. Like, this is basically them kind of wrapping up the end of the battle while still leaving a few things they can come back to. Like, if they never come back to this, they've covered it, they had an episode about it, they dealt with it, but they can come back to it if they want to.
Yeah.
They can set everything to more status quo, but they can come back to it if they need to.
Yeah.
I noticed something. I forget his name. The alien dude, the brownish one, whose whole species is male, sort of, kind of.
Oh, Bortus.
Yeah, Bortus. He didn't really have much of a talking role in this. Like he did like a sentence or two, but we didn't really see much of him.
Yeah, well, sometimes Worf wasn't prominent. He was in the background doing something.
True.
And they focus on who they need to focus on.
That's true. That's part of being a ensemble cast. Sometimes your character isn't even in it at all. Like in the unit audios, there were a couple episodes where Josh wasn't in it at all, or plenty where Shindy wasn't in it, or Sam. It's just who's needed is who's in it,
That's true.
Okay.
And he wasn't hating on Isaac, so he wasn't in it.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, I'm sure he'll get more. He'll balance it out by having some more screen time down the road. He's an interesting enough character. He'll have some time. And second season, he had a lot of time.
There was an entire story arc with him and his he had a lot of screen time in the second season between him and his family drama.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there'll be plenty of time for other things. We got 10 episodes. Well, 9 now, but anyway. Any final thoughts?
All in all, good episode.
Oh, no. Another
Don't
brick
be asshole to people just because other people like them did something evil.
Yeah.
Like just because
That's the origins of racism.
just because a small portion of a group of people did something bad does not mean the entire group of people are evil. Unless it's the Westboro Baptist Church.
Okay.
Anyways, I got nothing more.